Professor Victor was the obvious suspect, but the photographs, well, they told a different story. Look, say what you will about hoaxes, Photoshop, things like that. The fact remains that something else was there with him. Something devious, something sinister, something dangerous. And whatever it was, it scared the hell out of him. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Horror Movie Syllabus. My name is Professor Victor, and I'll be your host as we go through all of the essential, noteworthy, interesting, and notorious modern horror films. If you're new to the channel, I recommend you check out the introduction video. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. It'll give you a pretty good sense of what the Horror Movie Syllabus is all about. But today what we're doing is we're looking at a recommendation from you guys. Those of you who've been watching regularly know that I take recommendations from you guys in the comments, movies that I haven't seen, and then I've made a list of them, a big to-watch list. It's on horrormoviesyllabus.com. You can go take a look at it. And we're just kind of going down the list and checking off movies. And when I watch them, I'm going to let you guys know what I think about them, and then tell you if I think they're syllabus-worthy. We've done this a couple times before already, and so far we've been having a lot of luck with it. The movies have been really, really good. You guys' suggestions, your recommendations have been on point. And we've been leaning towards recommendations that had multiple people recommending them. And today's recommendation is no different than that. I think Sarah recommended this one, Josh recommended this one, a couple people recommended this one, and that's Savageland. Now, it's a little surprising that I hadn't already seen Savageland. It seems like something that would be very much up my alley. And I think that was the thing, is when it came out, I heard about it, but I didn't know what it was about. And I thought it was about something else. I think I got it confused with a different movie, something that just didn't sound particularly noteworthy or interesting to me. So I just ignored it and never bothered to check it out until it got recommended here. And then I started hearing about it all over the place. And a lot of recommendations for it came up all at once. And it makes sense because it is a mockumentary movie, and that tends to be one of my jams. I tend to like that kind of movie a lot. And interestingly, all the movies that we've been doing so far in this series of recommendations are found footage mockumentary style movies. That's kind of coincidental. It's just I've been focusing on movies that got recommended a lot, and they all happen to be that. And maybe because, again, people know my sensibilities. But I think in the future, we'll probably get away from that a little bit. In fact, next time we do this, probably I'll go out of my way to make sure it's not found footage or mockumentary, if I know that at least. I try to go into these movies fairly blind. I don't do a ton of research on them beforehand. I just make sure I haven't seen them already. And this was no exception to the rule. I didn't know much about it. And I was pleasantly surprised when I saw that it was really kind of in my wheelhouse for a number of reasons that we'll get into. I'm going to go ahead and tell you my thoughts in the movie, give you a couple of reasons why I really liked it, and then we'll look at whether or not I think it's syllabus worthy and why. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. So like I said, Savageland is a mockumentary film, came out in 2015, and it is set in Arizona near the border, and it is a movie about a town named Sangre de Cristo, or Blood of Christ, if you will. And the town just mysteriously gets wiped out one day. The entire population of the town, some 50 some odd people, get murdered overnight in a brutal fashion. And there is one survivor, a man named Francisco Salazar. He is a photographer, and everybody assumes that he did it. He has been arrested for that, and he's not really offering much in the way of a defense other than photographs that he took during the event that show very strange, very mysterious things that really can't be easily explained. Of course, I'll leave it there in case you haven't seen the movie like I hadn't seen it. But the movie is fantastic. I loved Savageland. This movie, like I said, really in my wheelhouse for a number of reasons. The movie is a really good example of a mockumentary. In fact, it might be like one of the best mockumentaries. It really is up there in terms of quality. It comes off like one of those Netflix true crime documentaries. It really does have that voice. It has that flow and format that if you like those kind of movies, those documentaries, you're really going to jive to this because it's really tapping into that. It really hits that note really, really well. Very authentic feeling. Couple that with performances that are across the board pretty darn believable. The people who are in this movie come off very realistic. They really, I buy into every single one. I can't remember there being any notable weak links in the acting, which is always a tough thing because you're trying to do a mockumentary or a found footage. You want that verisimilitude, you want that believability. And if somebody's not a very good actor, if somebody comes off as a false note, it takes you right out of the story, it takes you right out of it completely. That doesn't happen here for sure. The movie has a lot of characters that are contributing to it that are really coming off pretty believable. Like either great or really good. Maybe there's one person that's kind of passable, but again, because everything else is working so well, give her a pass. Everything else. Everything else was top notch in terms of the performances. The setting was also a really great idea. They have, the established town. They really set it up well. They explain the layout of the town. They even have maps using it, just like you would see in a regular documentary. And they have all these people talking about the town, its history, its proximity to the borders, proximity to this other town, the socio-political climate. All of that stuff is set up extremely well to make the story feel really good. The best part of the movie, though, is the photographs. These photographs are a centerpiece of the movie. They are a key element to it in kind of uncovering the mystery of what happened, what really went on. And it's funny because the way it's described in there, you've got these photographs, and then people are talking about, are they faked? Or what do they really mean? Why is he still photographing when all this horrible stuff is happening? And they did a good job of putting a photographer as a character in the movie to explain these things away, to explain why somebody like a wartime photographer, for example, keeps shooting rather than running or helping or any of these other things. It was enough to help you buy into that and go with the story, because if you don't buy into the photos, if you don't buy into the reason for the photos existing, you're not going to buy into the movie. You're not going to go with it. And I thought they did a really good job of making sure that the photographer was there to help explain why Francisco Salazar would be photographing, what his motivation would be, what his mindset would be. I bought into it, made the movie go down much smoother. This movie is very timely, politically speaking. It speaks to something that is, at the forefront of the cultural zeitgeist in America right now. Even though the movie is 7 years old at this point, it's still something that's very relevant at this very moment, which is, the issue of immigration, race relations, things like that. By setting the movie in Arizona, a controversial state when it comes to this issue, it adds this layer of intrigue and tension to the movie, having it placed close to the border, and tapping into the political discussion about Mexicans crossing over into America over the border and crime that's associated with it, and how the effects of immigration or illegal immigrants coming into the country can impact Americans, white Americans, is interesting. It really added a layer of fascination for the movie that I don't know that it will age that well. Frankly, I kind of hope that it doesn't. I hope that this issue isn't such a hot button issue in the future, and that this movie doesn't make as much sense in the future. That would be a lovely thing to have happen. But in reality, this movie will probably actually age very well. This issue will probably still be relevant for a long time from now, and this movie will probably still resonate. But it's interesting because it's definitely a political movie, and I say that most movies have some sort of political message, whether you recognize it or not. This one's wearing its politics on its sleeve. It's very upfront and out there. Whether or not it's actually endorsing one side or the other is a matter of debate, but it actually is very political. It's a lot of the people, a lot of the characters in the movie are speaking their politics, and stating their positions, and so it's not shying away from that at all, nor should it. I think that's another thing that added to the movie that I liked a lot. I liked that it didn't shy away from this issue. I liked that it used it as part of the plot points, and part of the story, and that it presented both sides and kind of left it up to the individual viewer to kind of interpret that information however they wanted to interpret it and side with whoever they wanted to side with. And that's another aspect of the movie I really liked, is that it didn't give you definitive answers. And not only did it really necessarily side one side or the other, although you could make an argument that it leans one way or the other, but I think that depends on your own personal leanings. I also think that the movie didn't give a definitive answer at the end. It doesn't really give you the most satisfying theatrical Hollywood type experience. And it's not much of a spoiler to tell you that Salazar isn't redeemed at the end of the movie, and it's arguable whether or not there ever really is an explanation as to what really happened in the movie. It doesn't really give you clear answers. It gives you an indication of what you should think it would be, and and I think it's pretty compelling. But you can make these arguments a lot of ways. You could actually see how some of the characters think it's X rather than Y, and go along with that. And I liked that it didn't try to wrap up everything in a nice, tidy little bow for you. That said, it does have an ending that kind of slides into your typical found footage style ending, which is a little unfortunate. I think that the ending is maybe necessary to kind of try to give you a hint towards what answer they want or what conclusion they want you to reach. But I almost kind of wish they hadn't done that. It would have stayed more true to the Netflix documentary style if they hadn't done that ending, the last 30 seconds to a minute or so of the movie. But that's a minor nitpick. Overall, I still think it works really well, and I think the ending is excellent. I just You can make an argument that that ending is a little bit stereotypical at the very end, but I think you can let it slide given how good everything else in the movie is, and it's really top notch. And that's the thing about this movie: the acting, the direction, the story, the style with which it's made. All of that's working gangbusters. It's all coming together really nicely, and you'll forgive it a nitpick or two here or there because everything worked out so well. So all that brings us to the million-dollar question, as always, is it syllabus worthy? And in a answer, definitely. Absolutely, it's syllabus worthy. This movie probably would have made my syllabus had I seen it before I made the syllabus. If I had made the syllabus after seeing this movie, I probably wouldn't have been able to avoid getting it onto the mockumentary subgenre. That's almost certainly where I would have put it. And as a result, will I try to find a way to squeeze this onto the supplement or the doctorate level? Probably, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. At the risk of spoiling a future video for you, there's a real good chance you're gonna hear me talk about Savageland again, as I put it onto one or the other, either the horror movie supplement or the horror movie syllabus doctorate level. One of those is probably gonna have to talk about this movie because it's that good. And like I said, it might be hitting me in my sweet spot. I love a mockumentary, especially when it's done really, really well. I love movies that tackle this issue, this kind of a socio-political issue, because I think it's a very controversial hot button issue, and I think that they tackled it in a very deft way that I thought was very fair and very interesting and not cowardly. So I thought that was great. I also like this movie as a kind of an under the radar movie. Yeah, it's got a following, and I kind of feel like a moron for not having seen it before, but it's still not a mainstream movie. If you talk to mainstream casual horror fans, they don't seem to have seen it, and most of them don't even know what it is. So it really kind of fits the bill of like a doctorate level selection, which might kind of tell you where my heart's leaning on this. And it hasn't been decided yet. Nothing's been decided, but this movie really won me over. Again, the politics of the movie might not be for everybody. If you're one of those people who really hates politics in your movies, this probably isn't going to help. This movie's probably not going to sit that well with you. But and also if you like movies that spell everything out for you and give you a definitive, concrete answer, once again, this movie probably isn't going to be for you. This movie isn't going to be one that resonates for you. You're going to feel maybe a little less than satisfied at the end of it. But I hope that those things don't deter you from watching it if you haven't seen it, because this movie knocked my socks off. This movie really was compelling. Again, if you like a true crime documentary, this movie really feels like a true crime documentary. It's funny because we're watching it as a horror movie, so you're looking at these pictures and the kind of weird supernatural-ish looking things that are on these photographs. Again, I'm trying not to spoil it, but and you'll say, well, clearly this is what happened. It's clearly a supernatural type explanation, and this guy is innocent because you have the meta knowledge that you're in a horror film. But if you were watching this on Netflix and you saw this as a true crime documentary, your mind would not be saying, well, yeah, clearly that supernatural stuff is true. That's obviously what happened. It's actually kind of a fun pet peeve of mine. I watch movies. I like to watch people do reaction videos to movies on YouTube, especially horror movies. And it's funny how much people will leap to the supernatural explanation. Like people will watch The Exorcist and go, why are all these doctors not saying get the priest? It's clearly a possession. She's clearly possessed. But in real life, if somebody was acting really strange, like Reagan from The Exorcist, would you jump to possession? Is that where you would go? I don't think most of us would. I think most of us would be looking for the medical reason why they were acting strange. And it's funny to think like if you have the meta knowledge that it's a horror movie, yeah, you go supernatural real fast. But in real life, I don't think you would. Maybe some people would, but most people wouldn't. And I think that's what Savageland is. If you can look at it through the lens of, man, if I was watching this as a real documentary, I think that you would be much more reluctant to buy into the supernatural aspect of it and really kind of side with the people that are pushing back on that. And that's what I like about the movie is we've got a large contingency of people in that movie pushing against the explanation that these pictures show him to be innocent. I think that's great. In fact, I think it'd be awesome if you could show this to somebody who didn't know that it was fake, who thought it was real. And kind of like, the Blair Witch experience. You're going to get more out of it if you buy into it. I would like to see somebody's reaction to this if they didn't know it was real. So if you have the ability to show this to somebody and let them think that it's a true crime documentary, like a Netflix style documentary, and then let me know what they think. Let me know their reaction. I would love to know about that. Please, if somebody can pull that off and leave us in the comments below, leave the comment explaining how that went down. I would love to hear about that. But I'd also love to hear your thoughts on this. I know a lot of you have seen this because a lot of you recommended it. Tell me, and some of you guys liked it. So tell me what you like about it because I've told you what I like about it. Tell me what you like about it. And then, do you agree with me? Do you think that if you didn't know that it was a horror movie, that would you buy the pictures? Would you think they were real, or would you think they were fake, like the people in the movie do? I'd like to hear about that. But in any event, I love this movie. This was another great recommendation from you guys. I really think that you guys are knocking it out of the park. So I'm looking forward to doing another one of these in the very near future. But right now, before I forget, because I always tend to forget when we do these videos, to read a horror trivia question. So let's do that right now. And because of the themes in this movie, as I try to get my glasses on, we're going to go to the international category on the Horror Trivia Pursuit card. And as if you don't know, Horror Trivia Pursuit question that we do at the end of every video, I answer it live in the air, no cuts, so you can see if I screwed it up or not. I haven't seen this before. Hopefully you guys can answer it too. I'm going to give you some time to come up with an answer. And here's the question. In 1917's Satan's Rhapsody, or Satan's Rhapsody. This is one I wish I could cut because I fumbled the word, but I have to leave it in here so you guys know I didn't cheat. In Satan's Rhapsody from 1917, what are the names of the two brothers who fall in love with Countess Alba de Ultravita? Ultravita? I don't know. Ultravita? Can you guys see it? I'm bumbling this one right and left. But it should be on the screen at this point so you can read it yourself. I have no idea. I've heard of this movie. I've never seen this movie. This is one of those things, again, I was talking recently about Kenneth Connolly, our resident expert on pre-1970s horror. Kenneth, have you talked about this movie? Because I know the name of this movie and I don't know why I know it. I'm wondering if maybe it's one of the ones you mentioned. And if so, did you get the answer to this one? Do you have it right? Because I have no idea. So I'm going to take a shot in the dark because I have no clue. 1917. So I'm trying to think of some old-fashioned names. And I'm giving you guys some time to come up with it too. Hopefully you're not Googling and cheating because what would be the point of that? I'm not going to be impressed. Just answer the question and make a guess. Like I'm going to make a guess right now. So I'm going to make a guess right now. The two brothers who fall in love with the Countess are going to be Michael and Trevor. No clue, man. I'm just guessing. Shots in the dark. Let's take a look at what it was. Tristano and Sergio. Tristano and Sergio. I was a little off. Just a little bit. I had no idea, guys. I had no idea on that one at all. And I don't know why I know that. I feel like I've heard this question before because I feel like I've been given a question where somebody asked for the two names and it was just like two names, like Italian names. I just had no clue. Like, did I read this question when I played this game with my friends? I don't know. Either way, I didn't know it. And I still didn't know it. So I got it wrong. Did you guys get it right? If you did, let me know in the comments. And if you got it wrong, but you guessed, what did you guess? Did you guess something funny? Leave us a note in the comments of what you guessed. If you had a good guess, let us know in the comments below. But thank you guys very much for playing. Thank you guys for hanging out and talking about Savageland with me. Thank you guys very much for the recommendation. This was a killer movie. I really enjoyed it. And I'm looking forward to getting to more of your recommendations. So keep them coming, guys. Anything I haven't seen, I'm going to put it on the list. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to leave comments. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and watching this video. And until next week when we get back to our regularly scheduled programming, class dismissed.